Hey, third grade, it is our third lesson for the week. We've been talking about the weather and climate, and you were asked to think about how the weather or how the climate is the same in Omaha and San Diego and how it is different in Omaha and San Diego. We talked about how the temperatures are similar as far as the low temperatures at nighttime in the summer, so that is one way that they could be the same. We also talked about how there is rain in both of the locations, so even though the rains may happen at different times of the year, there are times of the year for both Omaha and San Diego where you would find rain. And that is something that we should look at because in some areas they don't get rain very much at all. So the climate is different in all different places. So that is some things that Omaha and San Diego have that are the same. Differences in the climate. One big difference I'm sure you noticed was that we have snow in Omaha and they do not have snow in San Diego. So that is a big difference. Another difference would be the temperatures. We talked about how Omaha could be as low as an average of 30 degrees in the winter, and in San Diego it's in the 60s. And then in the summer, they do not get as hot as we do. They might get around 77 degrees, where we will be around 88 degrees. So there are several differences. Also, we noted that in the summer, Omaha will have rain, and in San Diego, they have very little rain in the summer. So, some ways that our climate are the same, and some ways that our climates are different. So, another reason why we think about climate in an area is because we want to know how that climate affects animals. So I want you to think about, how does climate affect animals in Nebraska? One example is with the bats. And I'm going to show you a clip. Every year, the Nebraska Wildlife Rehab Center gets several bats from Omaha in the winter. Either they've been injured or they are they're not in a place where they're going to stay warm. And so they will collect these bats and take them back to their center and take care of them, feed them, and keep them warm through the winter. Bats are not able to survive really cold temperatures. So a lot of times the Nebraska Wildlife Refuge will have to help these animals make it through the winter. So I'm going to show you this video of them releasing all of the bats that they collected this past winter. They had over 400 bats that they were taking care of at their facility. And each year they then have an event where they release all of the bats. Normally this happens at the Joslyn Art Museum and people can go and watch, and it's really neat to watch. But since we're being asked to stay at home right now, they decided to just do it in a different location so that they could get the bats back into their natural habitat. So I'm going to just play a little bit of this. I'm not going to play the audio with it because I just want you to pay attention to what they're doing, and I'll give you some information as they go. So this is one group of bats that they are releasing, and you can see them kind of snuggled up together to stay warm. They do use each other's body heat to help stay warm if it gets chilly. And in this cage, there are all girls. They did say that they usually keep the girls and the boys separate in different cages because the boys tend to pick on the girls, and so they want to make sure the girls aren't getting picked on, so they'll have them in a separate cage. So if you're watching, you can see they're just going to help the bats get out of that cage, and then they just let them fly away. So why did they choose this day to release the bats? There are different things that they have to consider to make sure the bats are going to be okay once they're released. One of the most important things is the temperature. We had snow last week, so we know that it was really cold that day and it would have been too cold for the bats. But now, because of the way the weather is and what they have heard from the weathermen and what they know the climate is going to be like, they can let the bats go. They know that they will be warm enough. Along with it being warm enough for them to survive, there are also going to be more bugs for the bats to eat. So it needs to be warm in Omaha for us to have the bugs. Otherwise, we don't see bugs in the winter. So if there's no bugs, then there's not much for the bats to eat. So they have to pay attention to the weather and the climate to know that these bats are going to be okay once they're released into the wild. So you can just see that they're letting them go, and it's kind of cool to watch them fly off. And usually they'll let them go, and then it's kind of hard to see in this video, but then they'll kind of circle overhead for a little bit and then they'll fly. Bats usually go back to the same place that they were putting their nest before, and so they try to release the bats in the same area as they've found them, so that the bats can find their way back and they don't have to travel too far to get there. And you can see all the people that are spread out in the field. They want to make sure that the bats get off the ground and get up in the air and fly away. So they have all those people watching to make sure that the bats are healthy and that they're able to fly off. So one of the cool things about this organization is that they are involved in making sure that all the animals in Omaha and around Omaha are kept safe and kept healthy. They don't just work with the bats, they work with possums, raccoons, squirrels, mountain lions, whatever might be wandering around and need their help. They will take care of it and make sure that it is put back in a safe place. They don't keep any of these animals in their facility for a long amount of time. They just keep them there long enough to make sure that they're healthy and able to survive on their own. So I just wanted to show you a quick clip of that. If you want to see more of this video, you can see if you can get on Facebook, and it is the Nebraska Wildlife Rehab Inc. page, and they have this video posted. It is about 45 to 50 minutes long, so they have a lot of bats that they have to release. They don't want to let too many go at the same time because they want to make sure that they all get up in the air and they're doing well. And also, if you listen to the audio, they have a lot of really great information about bats. So if you're interested in bats, I would definitely check out this video on Facebook. I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint now. And in your science notebook, I want you to write, how does climate affect bats in Nebraska? So since we know that we have warm weather in the spring, in the summer, it gets a little cooler in the fall, and then it gets really cold in the winter. How does that affect bats? How would the climate be, how would bats be different if our climate was different? So I want you to put your thoughts down in your science notebook about that question. If you want to share your work with me, you can email it to my email address, diana.capel@ops.org. I will be getting more videos for you for next week. Have a good weekend, everyone.